What does the Biden campaign have to do? Because many people, especially donors in the Nikki Haley world, will argue President Biden has become so progressive, or he might not be so progressive, but he's armed himself with super progressives. And I'm not saying he should make any changes, but if he wants those voters, what does he need to do? How does he need to message?
Let me pull my sleeves up for this.
Pulling him up.
I feel as though that perhaps there are Nikki Haley voters and then there are Haley donors.
They're very different.
Yes. And I think a lot of people are grouping those together, but not my girl, you. We're separating them, and I think we should for this conversation. The Nikki Haley donors are not Biden people. Maybe like some on the very fringe, on the margins, but for the most part, I don't think they're folks that are willing to give to Joe Biden.
Okay, from my reporting, some of the biggest donors Nikki Haley has could begrudgingly vote for Biden, would admit that they're voting for Biden, but they ain't writing a big check. They subscribe to this hope that Nikki Haley represents this George Bush-era Republican, and they're desperate to keep that light on, thinking that it's not the party of Trump.
It's giving Motel 6. I appreciate that.
There you go.
So the Nikki Haley voters, which are some of these people that we have seen in some of the great reporting that our NBC News colleagues have done across the board in these battleground states and on Super Tuesday the other night. So those folks who have said, look, I'm not willing to vote for Donald Trump, but I could potentially cast a ballot for Joe Biden. I don't know yet. The thing that Joe Biden can do is work to earn their votes, is to campaign. Now, I want to be very clear, though. I do not think that there should be an overcorrection for the Haley voters in expense of base Democratic voters. The Biden coalition in 2020, I was a senior advisor on that campaign. That coalition that we put together in 2020 was base Democratic voters, was moderate Republicans, I would argue, and independent voters. There was literally a Republicans for Biden that we rolled out at the 2020 Dem convention. Joe Biden is not going to get reelected. There are not enough Haley voters to account for a drop-off of base Democratic voters. And so you have to campaign and keep your entire coalition together, but not overcorrect. And I think we're going to hear some of that at the State of the Union on Thursday night, talking about they're going to lean into health care, which our NBC News reporting suggests from the White House. They're going to lean into talking about, I'm interested to see who's in the box with First Lady Dr. Jill Biden, and hopefully we'll see that tomorrow morning.
So Joe Biden's message has been to the Haley voters, come over, there's room for you in this tent. Donald Trump's message was to attack Nikki Haley. You spent last night at Mar-a-Lago at the Trump after party.
Yeah.
How do you think, besides the immediate attack on her, how do you think the Trump team's going to play this?
I mean, they're coming off obviously confident to the press. They think that they're actually Republicans and that at the end of the day, they will vote down the ballot from top to bottom Republican. And in a few months, they will forget all about this. I think that a lot of these primary voters came out to send a message, right? Like they were going out in a primary, which not a lot of voters do, but they were doing it in protest to Trump in the same way that you had the uncommitteds going out in protest to Joe Biden.
What's the message?
The message is that we don't like this vision of the GOP, but I don't know that they are necessarily all of them going to go with Donald Trump. I mean, even if you look at the polling, it says like more than 50% of them say they'll vote for Donald Trump, even though they voted for Nikki Haley. And then like 12% still don't know what they're doing right now. I mean, this is all like anecdotal early polling. We still don't know for a fact. But more than half of them are saying that they're still Republicans and they're more likely to vote for Trump than Joe Biden, and 12% still don't know what they're going to do, maybe 30%. But this is also just a small margin. I mean, these are primary voters. Not a lot of people go out and vote in primaries. So,
all right, anecdotal early polling. Amanda, how about we blow our nose with these polls? State after state, what's the takeaway? Donald Trump is underperforming the polling. So either the polling's broken or he's lost his mojo.
Well, I think he's losing voters every day. But I want to just kind of rewind the tape on the conversation you're having, because in terms of how Joe Biden appeals to these voters, which are super valuable, they are the majority makers in swing states. It's a very unique coalition of never Trump Republicans, moderates in the suburbs, and, some Democrats that show up that want to stop Trump. This is an amazing coalition. And this is something I'm super interested in, because at Protect Democracy, that's the kind of coalition that's our organization. We are cross-partisan. You know, as you mentioned, the lead up, I used to work for Ted Cruz. I work with staffers who work for Elizabeth Warren and Obama Justice Department lawyers and people that work for Susan B. Anthony pro-life. And the way that we stay together as an organization, I think, is a model for this, because we do this not by saying, oh, okay, we're all on Joe Biden's team now, let's put on the blue shirt. We stay focused on big values. I think, you know, when the Obama campaign says, well, you know, how can we get people in our tent? I think that's sort of the wrong approach. I think where you just say, listen, we are going to disagree on some things, but I'm going to create a space. I'm going to keep a country where it is safe to disagree. And we can resolve our differences in a clear and peaceful way. And we're going to have peaceful transfers of power, because this is what America is really about. You shouldn't have to check like all your priors at the door in order to vote for those things. You don't have to be a Democrat in this election, when it's a democracy versus authoritarianism, to vote for Biden. And so, you know, a lot of people are like, well, is Nikki Haley going to endorse Biden? Is Chris Christie going to come to the convention and speak at the DNC? I don't think that's actually necessary. And I think in a way it's counterproductive.
Can I say one point about that? Because what Amanda is pointing to is that speaks to that particular piece of the coalition. But it's not just going to be enough to just talk about democracy and think everyone is going to come out and vote and say, oh, well, I mean, what you are saying, Amanda, to be clear, Joe Biden did say that today. He put out a statement this morning after Nikki Haley, and he basically said, a shorter Joe Biden was like, look, you don't got to agree with me 1,000%. You don't got to agree with me 50%. But can we at least agree on democracy and do that? That message was specifically for those Haley voters. But when it comes to base Democratic voters, you know, there has been a lot of focus increasingly on things like junk fees, right? Those are things that go directly to the heart of what people deal with every single day. When people ask, well, the economy is doing well, but why is it not showing up in the polling? Why do the voters still say, even Democratic voters say, oh, I don't know about the economy, I'm not feeling it? Because they are dealing with things like crazy credit card fees, crazy extraneous junk fees in different spaces and places. And so now what you are seeing the campaign and frankly the White House do is turn towards, look, we've done what we can on our own, but this is what we're going to do. We're going to tinker on the edges, but we need to speak directly to the heart of like some of the issues you're dealing with have to do with corporations and big pharma. And we're going to do what we can, but we got to put the pressure on that. That is more of a, I think, a progressive argument, but it is something that will speak to these folks that have yet to say, I need to feel it. And there are people that still need to feel it.